Welcome to chapter 1. And where do we start? What is marketing? So let's start. This video lecture series is intended to help you as you go through your PowerPoint, to kind of give a little bit more insight on the slides so you can review them, as well as, of course, reading the text and then doing any homework that's associated with it if it pertains to you. So starting off on the first slide, the top 10 companies hiring and marketing today. All I ask is that you click on this link and take a look at all the different companies, worldwide companies that are really hiring, all the different positions, to give you a really broad view of what people do in industry when they are in marketing. Continuing on, let's look at the first case example. This is Red Mango. How many of you have ever had a Red Mango yogurt? What does Red Mango really talk about? Let's take a look at this link on the slide so you can get an overview of the Red Mango brand and how they position themselves within the marketplace. Let's go to the Red Mango slide. And as you will see, what we call USP? Its unique selling proposition. What is key to Red Mango and what they can own is within their branding, within their overall look, within their design, and what they promise to the consumers. Organic, real, and brands that really are transparent. Red Mango does a really good job beyond other brands. So if you start considering other brands and how they market frozen yogurts, Red Mango takes it to more of a real organic piece. So consider that when you look at the case study for Red Mango and look a little bit further. So now we come down to what is marketing. This first link is pretty wonderful to give you an overall idea of what marketing is and what marketing is not. Many people assume that marketing is the end result, the TV commercial, the print ad, all of the pieces that you see at the end, but so many other things go into marketing from the beginning. It starts with research, it understands, and marketing is about creating and capturing value. Marketing is an exchange of goods or services from one consumer to the next. And as we go through and look at marketing, how do we really build the CLV? The customer lifetime value. How do the biggest brands in the world, whether it's Coca-Cola, Nestle, or Nike, really approach marketing from a strategic sense? But that's what we're going to talk about more and more this semester. We're going to look at a ton of brand examples to really tie in what the concept is and apply it to a real world brand. Let's take a quick look at Oreo. Some of you may remember Oreo a couple of years ago from the Super Bowl. And they were in real time when the lights went out in the Super Bowl and they indicated, "We dunk in the dark." That type of in-the-moment marketing is becoming very relevant today. Consumers want information at the time. They don't want it after the fact. They want it immediately, and we are in an economy which we call time poor. We don't have a lot of time, so we need to engage and get consumers aware of our brands right away. And considering, how many of you know how many messages we receive on a daily basis? About 5,000 marketing messages come through subliminally. So for a marketer, their job is to really stand out, but also have that unique selling proposition that we talked about a little while ago with Red Mango, to ensure that the brand resonates and it's relative, and we can connect with the consumer and provide the value that they are expecting. Also, looking at Oreo, dunking in the dark, or their new line extensions. That's another aspect of marketing that we'll talk about. I invite you to go to the supermarket. Look at the variety of all the different Oreo flavors that Nabisco produces. We actually work with the Nabisco team as well as the packaging team, and every single one of those flavors has gone through market research, whether it's qualitative research and focus groups with consumers sitting there approving it or massaging messages, or it's a quantitative statistical study that say, yes, this is a new flavor that should be rolled out. There is enough room within the marketplace to truly own a unique spot. So as we go through, let's take a look at the quadrants. So what is marketing? At the core, if we look at marketing right there and look at it where all the key points come out. One key piece, marketing creates value. So something that you were looking at prior and there was no marketing surrounding, now all of a sudden has value. How did Virginia Tech market to you? How much value does that have when you looked at it from an overall university, from a ranking standpoint, from certain majors, from grad school, etc.? Consider that, and that is value that we're trying to put out to engage students so you will apply and continue the Hokie tradition. That's one key piece of it. Marketing is about satisfying consumers' wants and needs. Once again, going back to the Virginia Tech brand or Apple or Nike or any of these brands, how do these brands engage with consumers? How do they understand through data behind the scenes to understand what they need, when they want it, and really delivering it at the right moment, at the right time, with the right message, on the right platform, and with the right frequency. It is a science marketing has become. So continuing on as you look at this slide, exchanging. For your tuition, you are provided education. For your any kind of funding, you are provided that product back, or whether it is service. So consider that when you think of how an exchange is done. Moving on a little bit further, the 4 Ps. I'm sure you've heard of this way back in the day. Price, product, promotion, and place. But guess what, my friends? There's more than the 4 Ps. We're going to go over a model called SAVE, which is a very similar model in how business to business, or B2B as we call it, look at things. And we'll touch upon that in a little bit. But all marketing and all brands, we always have to look at those 4 areas. So what is the product we're marketing? What place? And is place relevant these days with all that is occurring within the digital world? What's the price? How competitive are we? And then what's the promotion? How are we marketing it? How are we creating an integrated marketing? Is it online? Is it offline? How do we really create a cohesive brand that when a consumer comes across, it looks the same every single time? Think of the Nike swoosh. Think of the Starbucks brand. It's ubiquitous. It doesn't even need a name anymore. It's so well known throughout the years within marketing. So that's what marketing overall covers in terms of where it can be done in a variety of settings. And marketing can be an individual, a personal brand. Think of Oprah, think of Michael Jordan, or organizations of any type, or corporations as well. So breaking it down a little bit, let's look at this ad that we have on this slide. What is Oreo trying to convey? Who are they marketing to? It obviously shows the brand, but what has the brand done? The brand has been personified to actually be dunking. And this aligns a little bit with Oreos, dunking, but it also ties in with what sport? Perhaps basketball. There are target audiences intended for every one of these ads. There's mass advertising, but then there's very targeted advertising as well, which you will see throughout a variety of different brands. And as we go through this semester, you will become more and more aware of it. As we talked about before, marketing is an exchange. So whether it is funds that you give, money for your new Apple iPhone, and you receive the product in exchange of that, whether it is goods or sellers or communication and delivery, any form of exchange is exactly where marketing starts. That's at the core of it, the exchange, and as long as that exchange includes value. So let's stop for a second and talk about those 4 Ps. Product, price, promotion, and place. So considering that product, how do we create value? Back in the day, think about any of the brands that really resonated and had value. So let's talk for a minute about Apple, one of the greatest brands in the world. And how did Steve Jobs, when he looked upon it, create value, create something that was so innovative that no other consumer had ever seen something along those lines? So early adopters are ones that really adopt quite early, often in the product pipeline. But before even early adopters, you have innovators, those people that are so excited about it and believe so much in the value you have created through your product. So products help to create value. In terms of price, as you look at it, price captures that value. So in terms of the Apple iPhone, when it first started, it was positioned at almost $500 per phone. For many, that was a very, very elite product, as well as the price aligned with it. Place, where do we deliver those? Apple has a very unique atmosphere in its stores where they sell them. And true, Apple phones are sold in other locations, but the experience and what Apple promises and their overall brand, and when you walk into it, you're not just walking into a store, you're walking into an innovation center as they view it. And then finally, promotion. How do we communicate value? How do we ensure that when consumers utilize the products of a brand, that value is perceived based on marketing that comes through, whether it's the fastest phone or the ultimate driving machine or the best place to organize all your information, whatever that mission is that that brand says, how does it become communicated throughout your 4 Ps and everything within marketing? Those are the key pieces for this slide. Save. This is a new concept Textbook may not cover off on it, but I feel it is very important to talk about it. SAVE stands for Solution, Access, Value, and Education. So instead of looking at it just from the normal 4 Ps, we look at it from a standpoint of whether it's from a B2B, how do we create solutions? So if Virginia Tech is looking to purchase new computers, and we're looking and Apple comes to us and HP comes to us, they may look and say, what are they trying to solve? Are we adding 5,000 more students, so we need to have more innovative computers? Or is it our rooms or locations? How can they really create a solution? Then the next part is access. How are they going to provide us access and all the students to access these brand new computers? And what value does it provide? And at the end of the day, how are we educating the consumer? Think about some areas that 10 years ago were not what they are today, and how you're so much better educated about it, such as mobile phones, GPS, all sorts of areas. You had to be educated before you really understood what it was, and then through marketing understood the value and the potential to really utilize some of these tools and products to the best of your ability. This is what the SAVE model goes through. So once again, it doesn't take over the 4 Ps, but it's something, another area you should really consider. So if you have product, price, promotion, and place, consider SAVE. Solution. How does your product create a solution for consumers? Access. Instead of place, access. Consumers access brands and products all over the world. And in the virtual space that we're in, place has become a smaller aspect to really consider. Value. Instead of looking at it from a values and a promotion standpoint, where is the value that this product provides back to the consumer? And then education. How can we really educate the consumer about where they can find it, why this is the product they should purchase? Slide, business model, product oriented to service oriented and solution oriented. Really, instead of just the core product and considering it as haptic, but considering this product and personifying this brand to see how can this create a solution for the customer base. When we start to consider access, many organizations are moving away from just a core place of business to access anywhere in the world, any time of day that they want it. We have to be ready in the moment. Marketing is in the moment. So when consumers feel the need, we have to be ready for them to purchase it and have a turnkey system in any aspect. Price. Consumers have concerns about price all the time. How do we overcome price when a competitor has a lower price, but perhaps lesser value? We have to really do this through really understanding and providing value. And that value many times can overcome the aspect of a price, because many consumers become very inelastic to price if they're loyal to a brand. And that's where brand equity comes in, which we'll also talk about a little bit more this semester. And finally, education. Instead of promotion, educating the consumers and really having them understand what the brand solution you're providing and why they should believe in it, and giving them, whether it's third-party credibility or key insights about the product, to educate them further and really make them be a brand ambassador for you versus just a consumer. As we've talked about before, marketing can be done in a variety of aspects. We have B2B, business to business. An example of that, Virginia Tech ordering computers from Apple. That's a perfect B2B example. Or any example for that matter, where you have a local coffee shop and they get their beans from a farmer's market. That's still B2B. B2C, everything that you entail every single day. You walk into Starbucks, you pay or you give them your mobile app, and they provide you a cup of coffee, a latte, or whatever else. Traditional B2C. Then sometimes you even have C2C, consumer to consumer. Where can you see that? Have you ever gone on eBay, purchased something from another consumer? That's a perfect example of that. Moving on. Stakeholders. Every brand has stakeholders. Just like you would in your personal brand, and looking at professional and who are those key people that always you look up to or you're performing for, etc. Brand looks at it the same way. Number one, society. As you've seen throughout the years, whether it's online or offline, society plays a big role in brands. Number two, your customer, your core customer. Remember customer lifetime value. How are they a stakeholder for you? How are you delivering value? How are you ensuring they're brand loyal to you? Your employees. From a brand perspective, all the employees should be internal brand ambassadors, understanding the mission and vision and core of your corporation or your brand and being able to say it and represent it every single time. And finally, supply chain. All of those intermediary partners that bring together your brand. So these are the key stakeholders. Think about a supply chain. Think about a rubber maker for Nike and how Nike, if they had a variety of these different supply chain operators and provide it, and if one of them wasn't able to provide it anymore, or if there were floods or wherever it may be, how does that impact the brand? How does that impact the entire process of what the product development has to go through? Supply chain is a critical stakeholder for a brand. As we've talked about, the V word, value. Marketing creates value. Consider the simple telephone. Consider the evolution that it has gone through. And I always say to students, consider your own evolution. If we didn't evolve, we'd all still be sitting here in diapers. Thank goodness we're not. That would be kind of awkward. And when you consider it, thinking about the early part, what was the telephone about? What was the value? To communicate, for one person to reach the other. And as it's gone through the eras, it's gotten more and more sophisticated, meeting the needs and providing the value that consumers, society, employees, and all of your stakeholders expect. Let's look at this slide from Pepperidge Farm. Milano cookie. Take a break if you want and have one while you're watching this slide. That's fine. But how do they provide value? How do they call it something different than just a cookie? It's dark, it's luscious, exquisite, bringing about this position and value like no other cookie can. You will not have this experience with an Oreo, with a Chips Ahoy. You will only have it with this exquisite, almost giving you this elitist feeling when you have this light, airy, exquisite cookie. Think about how much time went into actually creating that positioning, how much research. We all take it at face value, but many of these things take months, if not years, to develop, refine, and perfect. At the core of every company is a brand, but a company's heart and soul is with their consumers. How often are companies really looking and considering the consumer needs and making sure that they're putting those needs first? Let's take a look at this little video from Tesco. It's an international company, mainly supermarket, located in the UK, and Tesco decided to bring a little bit more value to their consumers than any other supermarket did. It's a pretty interesting case study for you to take a look at. So how does a firm become value-driven? Think about it from any type of firm, whether it's Virginia Tech, whether it's Nike, whether it's Apple, whether it's McDonald's, any brand in the world, Under Armour. Think about all these different brands. Well, there's key pieces to it like anything else. Firms have to deliver value, and the way they deliver value is one, sharing information. Sharing valuable information, but information that they know is going to be relevant to their consumers. Virginia Tech, when we release our rankings, that's an aspect of sharing information and providing value, whether it's to potential students, current students, or alumni, or any of our stakeholders, to showcase how strong we are and how we continue to exceed expectations and build our university in the rankings, which is a really critical piece. Secondary, balancing the benefits with costs. We have to look at it from a university perspective. Where's the tuition? Where's the value? Where are the salaries coming out? Considering that, looking at it for any product that you may purchase. When is the line? You may be very loyal to a product, but understanding what the benefits are of that product and how much you're willing to pay for that product. And then finally, in terms of value and how we can provide it throughout, relationships. Brands are about building relationships at the end of the day, and relationships don't happen on one interface. It takes a long time to build. Think about relationships you may have with brands. How many of them are from when you were growing up? Learned behavior. Do you still use the same toothpaste? Maybe your parents or caregivers suggested to you. Deodorant, any sort of household goods. How many of those goods do you still utilize today in your life? How many of them have you had a relationship with? Has a competitor tried to take you away? Relationships with brands are very similar to relationships with people. You want to be committed to the brand, but you want to make sure that it's a give and take. And it's almost, if you can look at it as a bank account, withdrawals and deposits. How often is a brand depositing for you in your relationship? Are they providing coupons? Are they providing loyalty programs? Are they giving you other assets? And how often are they withdrawing? when they're asking for you to help with their rankings, to help complete a survey, consider that. But brands at the core are truly built around relationships. So there's this whole new world called social media. Not really. Social media's been around for a long time, even though 2005, when a young man named Mark Zuckerberg decided to create a program so he could meet his significant other, resulted in this community on board, which then expanded out to other universities. And today, we have so many different social media platforms. And yes, the largest ones, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Snapchat. Those would probably be the 5. But there are thousands of other platforms as well as apps that consistently evolve, and innovators all the time looking how we can solve issues. How do we provide solutions? How do we provide access, value, education within social media? Today, as of this filming, 67% of Americans utilize some form of social media, and actually 77% have increased mobile usage and use it for marketing as well as mobile. You will see how the numbers continue to increase, but more importantly, how marketers have to really consider social media not as a tactic, but as an integral part of their strategic marketing plan. Social media is not going away. Social media is here. Mobile is here. It's merging. It's not emerging. It has merged already in this world where we're in. Next up, we'll talk about gaming. We'll talk about augmented reality. We'll talk about a lot throughout this semester. So why is marketing important, as if this lecture did not bring it through? Marketing provides so many key pieces, from the entrepreneurial and innovation piece, to the value piece, to how much society and how society has changed. Consider sustainability even, and the society that we live in. If we did not know about sustainability and have promotions and marketing and educate consumers about it, we would probably be in a very different place than we are today. 50 years ago, sustainability, global warming, none of this was discussed. Once it started becoming an issue, marketing started to push and really educate and market about the importance of whether it's creating more LEED certified houses or buildings, as well as green initiatives all over the country, if not all over the world. And then finally, final piece, marketing is pervasive across. Consider how marketing runs throughout. You start with raw materials. So let's go back to Nike. Raw materials, how do they start with some of their supply chain? Those raw materials then go into the manufacturer. So if it's the rubber that goes on the sneakers, they submit it to the manufacturer. Nike then works through it to manufacture it on its sneakers. Then Nike ships it to specific retailers, and then those retailers sell it to, that's right, you, the consumer. So that just shows marketing and how pervasive it is. Continue on with me. We're going to go over the rest of marketing throughout this semester. I hope this first chapter was insightful and gave you plenty to consider and think about, as well as the links. Also a reminder to please review your text for a little bit more depth and information. But I'll see you next time for Chapter 2. It's coming up next. Thanks.